they have actually written a very thought-provoking book, Health and Wealth Paradox.
The next generation is going to learn everything in school, but they will not learn two things. One is personal finance, the second is nutrition and fitness. So these are core life skills.
Is there any one principle which came as a surprise to the readers?
So the most common first principle is know what to avoid and everything else will sort itself out.
By the way, I also love one of the lines which says, not all calories are equal, not all investments are equal.
It's just about where you are in life and about what your goals are. Create the plan to build your future, but also don't deny yourself of possessions here and there, because we are all human beings end of the day. We don't want to be at the opposite end of the spectrum.
Thing with money is that it's supposed to give you joy.
We must all remember that simplicity, whether it is in your food or in your investments, is something that is sustainable.
It's about separating the two types of dopamine. There's cheap dopamine and expensive dopamine.
So I think let's bring in, as everybody calls it, eighth wonder of the world, compounding.
If your health is compounding, your lifespan is compounding, and that is going to give you more number of days to compound your personal investments.
Welcome to the Exchange by Quest Investments, where we deep dive into the minds shaping the world of finance, investing, and beyond. Today we have two unique guests, whom we will be talking about the intersection between wealth and health, and they have actually written a very thought-provoking book on the same, which is called Health and Wealth Paradox. Ankush is a finance professional, health and fitness enthusiast. He is currently working with Phillip Capital in their PMS business. Ankush has been writing a lot of articles for the financial service publications. Mihir is actually a very dear friend and again a finance professional as well. He worked in many organizations, Deloitte, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. And last, Mihir and another friend of ours, Sandeep, three of us built a startup called Multipie, which we ultimately sold it to ICICI Direct. Currently, Mihir is working with Tata Capital. He is a chartered accountant and holds an MBA degree from University of Oxford. So let's welcome both of them to our show. Welcome to the Exchange. Your book starts with this story of Mr. A who amassed wealth of close to about hundreds of millions of dollars, but at the cost of health. Now, this could be a story of millions of Indians, right? We know that. Now, what is your personal story? What prompted you guys to write this book?
So for me, it was a very negative experience. At the age of around 31, 32, I was diagnosed with hypertension, which is high blood pressure, and everything else that came along with it, like early onset of fatty liver, high cholesterol, etc. So I went to my doctor, and he restricted all my favorite foods. And I felt that, it can't be this bad. There has to be a way to reverse this. I did a lot of my own research. I came across several fitness communities who helped me build much of the ideology that I have written in the book. And I started doing these very simple things at home. Right? Over time, I lost about 18 kilos and all of these problems just magically disappeared. It was that point that I realized that this is a goldmine of knowledge, right? And this is something that I would like to pass on to my daughter and also to several others in the next generation. Because the next generation is going to learn everything in school. They are going to be spoon-fed everything. But they will not learn two things. One is personal finance. The second is nutrition and fitness. So these are core life skills. And the book was a way to write these so that possibly these ideas which we have written will live beyond us and will serve as a guiding book for the generations to come.
So I had a similar story as Mihir. It's actually the opposite in that I was in the fittest shape of my life. I've been a health and fitness freak for close to about 14, 15 years and been very passionate about it, right?
So I read that you had like 11% fat. I can't believe that, at 11% fat, you're actually going to write book on both health and...
That's the whole point. If you look at me at 11% body fat, you would assume that this person is the epitome of health.
Yeah.
This person has got everything right. But that's not usually the case. So after going through this entire passion and years of experience, my father had a heart attack in 2018, which was, as they say, sudden, My belief is there's no such thing as sudden. And similar thing happened to a close relative of mine, where he looked very fit, looked very normal, didn't look like there was any condition as such happening. Similar to the same age as when Mihir actually had his issue. Unfortunately, he passed away from a heart attack. Many a time, what happens is the fittest of people, uh, assumed by society that they are the fittest of people. Why do they fall and die after having such a good lifestyle, right? So I had to introspect. That was the first time I actually went and did a thorough blood test. And what I saw was pretty shocking. My cholesterol was through the roof. So what you were seeing outside was not the real picture. So that's when I actually learned that health is different from fitness. And I had to take a reverse correction for close to about 1.5 years, change my lifestyle. Then you would come and tell me, "Arey yaar, 17% body fat is not so impressive." But then my actual report card of health, which is my blood markers, my sugar, cholesterol, everything, were better than they've ever been before. So now that I look at it, health is invisible to the naked eye.
That's a good point. Now, you guys also emphasize first principle thinking, using that as a bridge between health and wealth. Now, among all the, whatever principles you guys have used, is there any one principle which came as a surprise to the readers?
So I think the biggest surprise is that you need to know what not to do. The whole world is telling you what to do. For example, if you are going on a diet and everybody says this a lot, why don't you start eating avocados? Why don't you start cooking in olive oil? So they'll all be telling you what to do. They'll not be telling you what to avoid. Similarly, on the investing side, you'll find people saying buy this stock, buy that stock, this is a multi-bagger, right? They will not tell you what to avoid. So the most common first principle is know what to avoid and everything else will sort itself out.
Yeah. So I have this Charlie Munger, one of the lines which I keep telling everyone. He says, "Tell me where I will die, and I will
Yeah,
never go there."
yeah.
So I think
And he's lived a long and fulfilling life, right?
yeah, he definitely did. Now, as you know, you guys have mentioned this in your book. You both of you have a very different investing style, right? I mean, Ankush, you are largely into equity. Mihir, he's into equity, but he has got a fixed income as well, and I can understand he comes from a fixed income background like me. Why do you think, Ankush, that your investing style differs, but your approach to health is the same? By the way, I also love one of the lines which says, not all calories are equal, not all investments are equal. So, want to hear your thoughts on that.
So, personal finance, as the name suggests, is highly personal. What you see on Instagram, Twitter, propagating a certain investment style to X person, Y person, it's going to help this person, that person. It doesn't work that way, right? The reason why my allocation would be highly different from me is because I'm married but I don't have children, right? And now I'm building my wealth and I'm at a stage where I do not require a lot of liquid funds per se. So the process and instruments that we will use may be similar, right? But the allocation that I give to a certain instrument based on my life circumstance will be very different. So for someone who's maybe 60-year-old, right, who's at the end of their corporate career, as usually we see it, that person's allocation may be different from mine and Mihir's. But the instruments and the principles that that person also uses will be exactly the same. It's just about where you are in life and about what your goals are. Then use the first principles to create your allocation plan. That was the basic idea of this.
Yeah. So, there are two things which you guys mentioned in the book, and I found that very interesting. One is called Diderot effect, and the other is Grace Groner effect, and both are related to the person itself, right? I mean, Mr. Diderot probably end up having a decent amount of wealth, but spend it all away on luxury things. And Grace Groner was a secretary who didn't spend any money, but ended accumulating about $7 million in saving, which he left to nobody. Now, both are very extremes, and I don't think both are positions where you would want anybody to be in. So how does one avoid swinging between these two extremes? And also, maybe you can explain a little bit about them as well.
Yeah. So the Diderot effect, for the audience to understand what it is, Dennis Diderot back in the 1700s, he had written literary works, was not able to find buyers for the book, was extremely poor, and wanted to provide for his daughter's education at the time. Coincidentally, the Empress of Russia during that time, she came across his work. She
And the
wanted
book
to.
was the encyclopedia, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
encyclopede was
Peed, okay.
the French pronunciation.
Uh.
She loved the book. At the stroke of luck, she decided to buy his entire library, give him a scarlet robe. So from nothing, he got everything, right? He got the scarlet robe. So after getting the scarlet robe, he took the scarlet robe to his house and it seemed out of place. This beautiful scarlet robe next to all the poor belongings that he has. So now his next step, try to make the house even more glamorous, even more glamorous. So what happened to him, as what happens to many young people, is that once you get these wealthy possessions, you go into a crazy cycle. You want to maintain that lifestyle and you keep spending that much to maintain that lifestyle. And of course, then we know, I don't need to tell you what happened to Deloitte. If you keep spending like this, you're going to go to zero.
Yep.
The opposite spectrum, as you mentioned, Grace Corner, again, it's from the psychology of money, is the opposite. Someone who was a simple secretary at a company, uh, you looked at her again, as we spoke in the start about the body fat percentage analogy. You can use the same analogy for this. Is that you look at her and you won't believe that this person is a millionaire because she has just been investing for years and years all the money she earned, but she then gave away all her time where she could have spent and had some more fun, built a better life. But so she was an extreme miser. So to answer the question, how to build and bridge the gap, is that once you create the plan and you decide X amount of money is going to go for your investment, right? Don't feel shy to spend the rest of the money. So create the plan, right, to build your future, but also don't deny yourself of possessions here and there because we are all human beings. End of the day, we don't want to be at the opposite end of the spectrum.
So I tell everybody that one of the thing with money is that it's supposed to give you joy. So just putting up what you say, right? I mean, use that. I mean, otherwise, and I also tell everybody that the amount of wealth you accumulate or the amount of bank balance you have when you die is the amount of extra work you have done. So why work so much extra? No purpose. I really liked your four horsemen of the apocalypse framework, right? Now, can you expand how it applies equally to both health and wealth?
So it was Dr. Peter Attia who's written about these four horsemen. And again, it's about what you avoid. So he's written about four things on the health side. One is heart disease, the other is strokes, which is essentially the same as heart disease but related to the brain. Then there is neurodegenerative disorders, and then there is diabetes. So these are the four main killers that you should avoid like the plague. And if you read through his book, eventually it boils down to the same thing: excessive calories, excessive junk food. I'm oversimplifying here, but that is what eventually will lead to all these. Now, on the finance side, what is it that you would like to avoid? So, we've drawn an analogy with four financial horsemen. So, one is intent. Right. So whenever you are investing in any company, equity is a wonderful instrument, right? It gives you a seat right next to the promoter. Whatever the promoter is getting, you are sort of his equal partner by just buying one share. But think of it as a car that is being driven by the promoter. You are seated next to him, but you are not deciding the speed at which you move. You are not deciding the direction in which you move. It's the promoter who's deciding that. So the intent of the promoter, does he want to take you from A to B, or does he want you to take you from say A to Z when you only want to go to C, is very important. So the intent of the promoters has to be right, incentives have to be aligned. Wherever you see bad intent, and there are quantifiable ways of figuring out bad intent, that's something that you avoid. The second thing that you avoid is leverage. Now, leverage in two formats. One is leveraging your own investment, which in simple terms is borrowing money to invest elsewhere. Your investments are very volatile, up and down, but leverage is linear, or I'll say exponential, because interest will keep on getting adding up. So you don't want to be caught on the wrong end of the cycle. The other form of leverage is when you are investing in over leveraged companies. You don't want that company to get caught at the wrong end of the cycle. The third thing is valuation. So a company may be great, it may not be leveraged, the promoter intent may be all great, but if the valuation is not right, valuation is assigned by the market and that is subject to the vagaries and moods of lot of market participants. If you enter at the wrong valuation, you are just having to wait for a longer time for your money to see returns, or you may never see those returns. And the fourth horseman to avoid is complicated products. There are a lot of complicated products out there. Most of the complicated products would also be marketed in a very exotic way, and it's very easy to fall for such products. But we must all remember that simplicity, whether it is in your food or in your investments, is something that is sustainable. Right? It's something that you can keep on doing for a very long time, and that's the key to success of any plan, whether it is building health or building wealth. So again, I want to emphasize it is what to avoid rather than what to do.
Yeah. That is true for many big decisions in life. And one of them, of course, is bad marriage, right? I mean,
Right.
see, if you can avoid bad marriage or any bad relationship, that will take care of large part of your life,
Correct.
right? Now let's move on, and borrowing from Jim Collins, he says company often dies out of indigestion rather than starvation.
Right.
How do you extend that, to the world of, wealth and health, or
Right. Right. So again, it comes down to what you don't do. Right. So indigestion happens because you've done a lot of things. Right. The management is possibly trying to expand into business activities which are not the core of the company. Right. But a good management will possibly say that, okay, this is not our circle of competence. And I'm using the word circle of competence, which is written by Warren Buffett. So if it is not in the circle of competence and somebody doesn't want to chase that, you're in a good place. So that may seem like starvation, but it's actually going to ensure that you survive. Right. Similarly, in the world of your personal investing, right, rather than take on and invest in a plethora of products which will cause you indigestion, it's just better to keep your plan simple, right? Invest in few products that you understand and continue with that plan.
So I think let's bring in, as everybody calls it, eighth wonder of the world, compounding.
Right.
And frankly, picking on what you said, that what need to be taught in school, I think this definitely need to be taught
Correct.
in school.
Right.
I think in one of the interviews you've spoken about how compounding works more beautifully in health
Right.
as compared to investing as well. So can you share a real life example of
Oh,
that?
absolutely. I think one of the best examples is in the book. It is Ankush's dad.
Okay.
So he started lifting weights at the age of 60 plus.
Wow.
And when he had an
Before that, he had done
He
nothing.
had done absolutely nothing, and for those who want to see pictures, it's in the book.
So he had issues with his back. As always, if you tell your parents to go to the gym, you'll be laughed at. You'll be like, ये age में कौन जाता है gym में? But Ankush dad went to the gym every day. There's a picture of a calendar, and he's marked a cross on every single day that he's gone to the gym. Right. Today he can lift more than his body weight. Right.
Yeah, 170 kgs deadlift to be precise.
Wow. I can't do that.
And
Most of us can't.
all of this is just consistency and compounding. He didn't get to 170 on day one. He went there in a few months, but all because he just showed up. And let's talk about compounding beyond somebody's personal health also. So there's a community called Fitter, right? And you would have definitely heard of them. So Jitendra Choksi, who runs that, he started out with a WhatsApp group teaching these principles to few people. I was one of those, one of the early ones. Today, that community is comprising of millions of people and millions of fit people. If you think Ankush with 11% body fat is an achievement, you just log on to Fitter and you just see so many of them with 11% body fat. So that's just compounding of a very small community which has spread out exponentially. And on a lighter note, if your health is compounding, your lifespan is compounding. And that is going to give you more number of days to compound your personal investments.
Yeah. So, I was just listening to Federer. We've just French Open just passed through, right? So, tennis time and Wimbledon is going to start soon. I was just listening to Federer, and in one of the speech, I think some college graduation ceremony, where he mentioned that while he had won about 80% of the games in his life, in probably whatever 15, 18 years he played, he won only 54% of the points. Right? I mean, a lot of people. So basically, it's like 46% of the points he lost. But despite that, he won 80% of the games. Now, in investing or in fitness world, can you give us some examples which mirror this, where small edge can make a huge difference in terms of the gains?
Yeah. So compounding, as you had mentioned, Federer's example, a small percentage of the performance actually leads to a very large amount of the actual gains. So there's an analogy also which we put in the book. Two examples of two stocks, which I'll avoid naming the names of the stocks. Stock A, which is a well-known company listed on the markets, was where a fund invested into this stock for close to about 8.5 years, and the stock gave returns of close to about 1200%. The number of trading days of the stock was close to about 2200 to 2300 trading days. Now, a person would assume that multi-bagger stocks, is just like a one-way street. 90% of the returns of this 1200% of the return came in only 35 days.
Wow.
Similarly, there's a stock B, again a well-known listed company of today, a large cap company. The same fund held this stock for 13.5 years. The returns of the stock was close to about 8,000%. Again, people would assume you invest, it's just a one-way street. 90% of these returns came in 58 trading days out of 13.5 years of investing. And these are just stocks. These can be, most of us don't even get the opportunity to hold on to such multi-baggers. Simply investing into the market also. There was a study done between October 2003 to October 2023 of Nifty 500, that if you had invested 1 lakh rupees, your money would have grown close to about 15.8% CAGR. If you miss the top 10 days of the market, your returns would have fallen all the way down to 11% CAGR. And over a 20-year period, this makes a very, very big difference. It keeps going down the more and more of the days you miss. So basically, it works in a way that a large percentage of your gains come in only a small amount of work done, but still you need to keep showing up. That's how it works in compounding.
So now let's talk about cheap dopamine, right? And I really, I'm kind of shocked to see the story of the guy with the highest IQ ever born on the earth, Isaac Newton, that he lost all his wealth in South Sea bubble. How do even the smartest people get trapped in this cheap dopamine things?
Yeah. So glad you mentioned highest IQ person is not necessarily the highest earning person. As Buffett has also said, all of us here know what Buffett says. You don't need a fantastic IQ to be successful in investing. Newton was, again, just like all of us, following a trend. There must be some certain sector which is running in the news, in the headlines. Today there will be, without naming the sectors, there will be multiple sectors which are blooming, and investors are now just pouring in money into that sector because it's in the news. Newton went through that same cycle that all of us are going through today, hundreds of years ago. It was the shipping bubble at the time. Shipping stocks were seeing ridiculous amount of returns in the market purely based on speculation and news that a trade deal is going to happen, XYZ is going to happen during the time. No business has actually begun. None of the companies are actually benefited. And that time actually the information was very scarce. The tips would come, there's no way to verify it. And one of the smartest people we know, Newton, has fallen for it. And as soon as the bubble burst, the South Sea bubble, he lost close to maybe, I think, almost his entire wealth. So that is Newton's story. Then we speak about dopamine also. Dopamine is actually a very loosely used word today in the world because all of us as human beings require dopamine. Dopamine is what leads to motivation. It leads to why we look forward to doing things. It's about separating the two types of dopamine. There's cheap dopamine and expensive dopamine. So what is cheap dopamine? That you get very easily, very easy to access. I can go to my food delivery app, order the food, eat that food, and I'm back to a virtuous cycle. I can keep doing that again and again. I can trade in stocks continuously. I have the easy access. I don't have to think too much. Open my app, trade, buy and sell stocks. Cheap dopamine where I'm continuously doing it, and this dopamine needs to be replenished at a faster pace. and the next time I come back, I need more. So similar to how a smoker gets addicted to smoking, the literal same chemical mechanism works. And expensive dopamine, as the name suggests, is expensive. You have to work hard to earn it. Let's say you're studying for a competitive exam. Boring, you don't enjoy any of it, right? But once you pass the exam, the high you get goes on for extremely long. Working out, when you go to do a workout, the initial start is painful. Like no one really enjoys doing it. But the satisfaction you get is long lasting. Investing for long periods of time, no one enjoys the boring process over 3, 4, 5 years. But when you actually see the numbers after 5, 6 years, that's when you actually get to understand where your expensive dopamine is coming from. So cheap is easy to access, expensive, difficult to get. So we have to maintain a balance of it, not deprive ourselves of either, and understand which is which.
Yeah. So, we have seen in our firm as well, some of the best returns investors have made where basically they've been invested with us for 15 years and they've never called us also. They've never even called to have a discussion on about a portfolio. And when, recently we did one of the review with one of the guy and he had a fantastic return, probably like 12x of his portfolio in like 10, 11 years. So I think, yeah, but you only understand when you be there, right? Otherwise, you don't understand this. Now, let's talk about myths, right? I mean, what is the one big myth, which is very common between both wealth and health?
I think the most common myth is that you can achieve both very fast. And like we are living in the world of instant gratification. Everyone feels that, okay, if I follow something for 15, 20 days, I'll see a tangible difference. Or if I buy a particular stock, this month ka expiry mein derivatives mein paisa ban jayega, right? But it never works that way. You have to follow something for a sufficient period of time, which could differ. For some, it could be months. For some, it could be years, right? It certainly is not decade. You don't need to wait a decade to see results. But people need to have a little more patience beyond a few months in order to see results. And anything that is offering you instant returns, instant results, is, like it's one of the four horsemen. Just be avoided.
उसमें झटका ही लगता है.
And it pushes you back on your journey.
Yeah.
Next time to recover, you need more.
Yeah.
So your horizon is eventually goes longer rather than reducing.
So, I have two teenage daughters, and the elder one is going to start working soon, and I mean they still don't have the habit of saving, investing, right? I mean, you can blame on me that I've not taught them, but for a lame person like them, what is a simple way to understand balance sheet, P&L? And frankly, some of the things can look complicated to even people like me because I'm not from the equity world, right? And now I've been for the last 2.5 years, so now I know. But when I started, I was not there. So how can we make things simple so that a lot of people can understand?
No, I think that's a great question. A lot of people, me included, just because I'm a professional, I'm a chartered accountant, I like talking about complex things in meetings just to sound smarter. But the truth is that it's all quite simple. Like one must look at a balance sheet and a P&L, I mean financials, as a machine. एक जगह से there's capital that is going in, the other side से returns are coming out, right? And you want to be invested in a business which makes efficient use of capital, right? Then you start digressing further into each of these components. Where is the capital coming from? Is the capital coming in from the promoter? Is the capital coming in from outside investors? Is the capital coming in from debt? Because each of these has certain advantages, disadvantages, etc. Then you start dissecting the returns. Where are the returns coming from? Are the returns coming from something that is a sustained source of earning for the company, which in common language is called as moats? Are the returns being realized? Because mere profitability in a company, when the cash flow is not really coming in, is nothing great. That's a story that's waiting to unravel, right? So one must start looking beyond the numbers rather than get into technical questions like current ratio kya hai, DSCR kya hai, right? Solvency ratios kya hai. One must start asking questions. Okay, how do I see whether these earnings can be sustained, and then look for those signs in the balance sheet rather than starting from the technical aspect of accounting or accounting standards and then learning to apply those. So it is one set of technical skills that is needed to make a balance sheet, which is what people like me and chartered accountants are taught, right? And it is completely different skill set to read a balance sheet. And makers of balance sheets and readers of balance sheets are two separate breeds. Like at times, I really wish I wasn't a maker of balance sheets in my early stage of career. If I was a reader of balance sheets, I could have possibly understood them better.
Yeah. You know, there's a maze around diet plans and around investing styles. Like, you know, for diet plan, you have keto, paleo, OMAD, which I think Karan Johar recently made it very popular. You know, you spoke in one of the, whatever, I saw that one of the YouTube. So how does one look at, you know, all this, so many things? Do I like look at just think of one or try out everything? How do one somebody look at this? Right?
Yeah. So, of course, I can use data to support anything I want today. If I want to tell you ketogenic diet is the number one diet to follow, I can show you 5 studies saying it's good, right? If I want to show you OMAD is the best diet, I can show you 5 supporting studies that good. If I want to show you carnivore diet, I can just go on and on. But then again, I can find negatives also for each and every single diet. So there's data that I can use to basically show you that the best diet plan is this. Similarly with investing also, all of us from the investing world, we know we can use data to support whatever investing styles that we want to that we believe in. But the point is that if a certain investing style, 2 different types of investing style, if they're providing you similar returns over the similar time frame, and if they do not hamper your peace of mind, right? Why you uh, taking one against the other? Similar with a nutrition plan. Why you pegging one against the other? You have to kind of find a plan which you are going to stick to, and you're going to stick to over this plan over 20 years. Can I stick to a ketogenic diet over 20 years? Have I introspected enough whether it's impacting my health or not? If it's not, please go ahead. This is not diet advice again for anyone listening. Similarly, if I want to do a quant style of investing, I want to do a value style of investing. If things are working for me over 20 years, not affecting my sleep, and giving me the return that I expect from my financial plan, it doesn't really matter what style you choose. Because at the end of the day, we're all here to achieve X target, right? If a certain style is helping us, then why not follow that style as long as we can be sustainable with it?
Talking about data, we used to have this so I used to work in Merrill Lynch, and you know, across the investment banks, there used to be a habit of showing that we are number one in capital markets. So one will be number one from 2nd Feb to 25th March. The second guy will be number one 4th April to whatever 6th June. So you know, we have a habit of picking up. So as you said, right? I mean, you know, you can show whatever data and prove anything. Now, can you guys reverse engineer one small habit which actually helped you guys disproportionately in either health or wealth side?
Before reverse engineering the habit, I'll tell you what exactly I'm trying to reverse engineer. So the basic fundamental is that you eat a certain amount of calories, which is above what we call your BMR, your base calories, and below your calories that you expend, which is TE. And you eat them in a particular proportion, which is X% carbs, X% protein, X% fat. Now, when I put it this way, people feel कि यार इतना कौन करेगा, who's going to plan so much, right? That is why there are certain hacks that you can use. So if you want to restrict the number of calories, particularly calories coming in from, let's say, fat, what I do at my home is if there's food being made for, say, 4 people, 4 minus 1, so just 3 teaspoons of oil will go in the food. So it's very easy when I am cooking to measure 3 teaspoons oil, or it's very easy to tell my cook कि 3 चम्मच तेल डालना versus तेल कम डालना. When you say तेल कम डालना, वो उसका कम और अपना कम में बहुत फर्क रहता है, right? So I just say हाँ 4 लोग हैं ना तो 3 चम्मच डालो, 3 लोग हैं ना तो 2 चम्मच डालो. So there are a lot of such practical ways you can use to measure your calories rather than get into intense planning. For example, 1 katori rice. Now that katori will be katori of your house. So once you measure it, this is say 50 grams of rice. And every day you measure your food in that way. Today I'm eating 2 katoris. Today I'm eating 1 katori. So that is something that has helped me a lot rather than precise calorie counting. So I don't need an app for counting my calories, but broadly I know the calories that I'm consuming. If I'm eating something outside or out of a packet, I make it a point to just look at the label and figure कि okay इसमें चलो 200 calories है, so I need to create a deficit somewhere else. If not today, I'll create it maybe tomorrow. So these small actions help a lot. On the investing side, everyone knows that okay, you should do SIPs, you should allocate X to equity, X to debt, X to gold, and so on and so forth. But there's always that itch कि यार ये एक stock तो मेरे को लेना है, आज market गिरा है, I want to do something. So what I have done, and this works for me, this may not really work for everybody, is that I have a daily SIP setup. So instead of investing 100 rupees daily,
Okay.
and the reason is to just reduce my FOMO. It's very easy to say don't have FOMO, but oh, होता है FOMO तो क्या करेंगे? So instead of investing 100 rupees over the month, which is let's say 20 trading days, I invest 5 rupees on 20 days. The effect is the same, but I do it manually every day using UPI. So I also scratch my itch कि आज कुछ तो कर दिया, market नीचे था, okay चलो ले लिया कुछ तो. So it helps me on my path to be sustainable to my plan. So again, this is just a hack that works for me, and instead of putting myself through a rigid schedule, these are just fun ways that help me be on track.
I think very interesting. I mean, I like that idea. Can you guys name any one seemingly trivial metric which people generally ignore in day-to-day life, but actually turns out to be very foundational? The idea is like, what is that something which people, यार कुछ नहीं है छोड़ दो इसको, but actually if you do that or you look at that, it can be very foundational and it can have a large size impact.
Yeah, so it comes down again to the boring aspect of what Mihir said. Unfortunately, the answers in every interview we give and every discussion we have are boring with no hacks. Is that once you learn about your calories and calories in, calories out, right? For example, a burger, right? A burger is not going to make you fat. If the burger fits into your calorie plan, you can be as thin as you want. If a poha fits in your calorie plan, you can be as thin or fit as you want, right? For example, if I set a calorie plan, even if I have an avocado, which is the healthiest food which I can eat, if it goes outside my calorie plan, that avocado is going to make me fatter rather than the burger, which is going to make me assumed fatter by people. So people are generally they think that you have to shun things. You have to let go of cake. You have to let go of burgers. You have to let go. You don't have to let go of anything. You have to reduce the allocation you provide to your plan, and you can sustainably live and live a very healthy life, even eating those burgers and fries. I know people hearing this are going to come for me, but understand the nuance, please.
I think one very important metric is sleep. Right? So I think that's very underrated. People count their calories, people go to the gym, people invest very well, but I don't think people sleep enough.
It's the trifecta. I think Jeff Bezos, very ironically, probably the person who never sleeps, but he explains it with data, and we cannot escape from data, right?
Yep.
Data doesn't lie. If a person who sleeps for 5 to 6 hours, right, for example, this person has more number of hours during the day to take decisions, this senior management person, versus someone who slept for 8 to 9 hours. You would assume अरे time किधर है, time मिलता ही नहीं है, right? But this person who slept for 8 to 9 hours, his body is so nourished, his brain is so well nourished that the few number of decisions he takes have a much bigger impact than this sleep deprived person. Warren Buffett also, how many decisions does he take in the year? He's not sitting and giving you a stock tips. 4 to 5 big decisions every year. So that's what Bezos kind of hints on. That's the reason why maybe now he can afford to get 8 hours of sleep. Earlier he couldn't. But end of the day, data doesn't lie, right? The more sleep you get, your body is well. That's something that people don't know. Number of hours does not necessarily mean the quality of your decision making will be better or worse. Yeah.
So there are many examples in the market where, a great company, but at times the drawdown in their prices, stock prices have been in excess of 50%. Many examples, many great companies. I mean, like COVID market itself dropped, right? Or, global financial crisis. Now, how does one, we all talk about long-term investing, you gave two examples, right? But those outsized return came only on 35 or 58 days on either of the company. How does one think through all this volatility and be invested in great companies? And frankly, I mean, one of the big mistake a lot of people make is also selling early,
Yeah.
right? So how does one look at that?
So, firstly, that's a great question, and it's something that all of us have. It's a decision that all of us have faced, right? Uh, the answer, I think, lies in what is called a sequence of returns. So, what are you investing for, right? For example, let's say I am investing for my daughter's education, right? And if the fees for my daughter's education, say a lion's chunk of it is due next year, and I have that money lying in equity, which is a volatile asset susceptible to a drawdown, and it goes down even 10%, forget 50%, I'm going to start panicking. So the idea is to first figure out why are you investing, how far out that goal is, and accordingly allocate. So if you are invested for a goal which is, say, let's say, for Ankush future kids, like you mentioned in the beginning of this podcast. So that education is probably away 15 years, 20 years out, maybe. So a lion's share of the allocation towards that can go to equity, such that drawdowns today will not affect him. So the first thing is identifying why you are investing. Second is having a plan and knowing that sticking to the plan, the returns are going to be a byproduct. Right. I think that is what can help, or at least it helps me get through these market cycles. The second thing is just looking back at data. If we look at COVID today, the thought is, "Yaar, और invest करना चाहिए था." But at that point of time, the thought is that, oh, should I just take out all my money and at least जितना बचा है उतना तो safe कर लेता हूँ. So if you look back in time, equity as an asset class has always outperformed other asset classes, but over a long period of time. And like they say, most investors make money in their third cycle. So I have seen two cycles. 2008, I didn't have money. 2020, I had money but not the guts. And possibly the next cycle, I'll make
We'll have
money.
both.
Yeah.
The money and the guts. You guys have really, produced a great body of work in the form of your book, which is, by the way, I recommend everybody to read that. It's called Wealth and Health Paradox. What is your long-term vision behind this work? Are you guys going to deep dive into things like mental science, behavioral science, societal systems? What are you guys thinking beyond writing the book?
So I think it all comes down to circle of competence, and the fancy words that you have mentioned are not really our forte. So many people ask us if there's a second book coming, and our response always is that things with health and wealth are really simple, and there is nothing beyond these ideas. Like it can be these ideas gift wrapped in a particular way, but really the future plans are just to spread this knowledge, which is simplistic. I have a lot of passion and deep desire to spread this to kids because, like I said, these are core life skills which are not taught to children in a formal way. And at the same time, maybe just spread this to other people around me. Like, anybody around me will say that I can't stop talking about calories. I can't stop talking about why it is important to have an investment plan and maybe make a dent in the world in that small way. I think the dream would be if this gets introduced as curriculum in our education system. I think that's, I don't think there's more satisfaction than that.
To answer what Mihir said, if you want to know if there's a sequel, you have to see the original movie. So you know what to do.
Yeah. Now we're coming towards the end of our podcast. Any author or thinker guys want to name who has actually shaped your thinking behind both on the investing side and on the fitness side?
So, couple of authors to avoid going, we can go into the list of multiple books. Each book has its own taste. But I'll stick to three books which are also related to this. One is, of course, within investing. It's a book that I recently read around a couple of years ago. What I learned about investing from Darwin by Pulak Prasad. I think that book has made a foundational shift in the way I think and the way I look at investing, and of course, learning from someone who's been so successful in the market. It also helps to understand what they did and what works, and they've explained it in a very simple way. Second book that I would recommend, Stop Reading the News by Rolf Dobelli. Now, this is a book which is out of the health and wealth realm, but it's a book which every human being should read. We're flooded with information. We don't actually need to read 99% of the information. Let me actually tell you ki whatever news you're seeing on Twitter, Times of India, etc., right? 99% of that news is making zero relevance to your life. So that one book. And third book, again, since I have to mention a health book, is what Mihir mentioned, Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia. So it kind of teaches the world about what the world should be in medicine 3.0, that the patients have to be more understanding about themselves before actually going to a doctor, trying to understand prevention before the cure.
So for me, I think Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, reading their works and rereading their works has just taught me life philosophy. So within this podcast also we discussed a lot of things which Buffett and Munger have already said or written, right? So you mentioned about the importance of having a partner in life who is aligned to, it's a choice, right? Who's aligned to your life philosophy. We also discussed about Diderot. So, larger houses, do they necessarily give you joy? We discussed about being consistent, being disciplined, avoiding toxic people, avoiding toxic situations. And Buffett and Munger have written all about this. So they have not only taught us to invest, but they have taught us to live. So I am saying this because I'm approaching 40, so I'm supposed to get wiser. But reading their philosophies just makes me feel that, this is how one should live. And maybe that comes from them having seen the world in very different circumstances for 95 years, right? So nobody else alive today can give you that kind of perspective.
No, that's great, and so this was truly insightful. Ankush Mihir, thank you very much for giving your time, your framework, and also your personal journey regarding both health and wealth. So thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you. It's a
you.
real pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, guys. Thanks for listening to us. This was the exchange by Quest Investments, where wisdom meets practice. So until next time, stay healthy, stay wealthy, or as one of my friends says, swasth raho, mast raho. Thank you.